back, so stop.
Namaste. We're starting out by sharing some Duke Ellington and some Bach, as well as visually a beautiful orchid that I will use as we move through this program as sort of a metaphor for our paradigm. Namaste means I am at my highest level of God consciousness, seeking to communicate with your highest level of God consciousness, in hopes that enlightenment will encompass our conversation. This is the number one introductory workshop. There will be 4 more. The Self 1 workshop will be our next one. Then after that one, the Self 2 workshop, and then the Self 3 workshop. And the 5th workshop will be a summary and recommendations as to how you can specifically begin to use our paradigm as one way of expanding your inner psychic space. For our introduction, I want you to know that we are coming from the broadest possible universal observation that we have at this time. 1 on the self, and 2 in the universe. It's very interesting to notice that in recent modern psychology, more and more focus has been on the self since Freudian psychoanalysis was founded by Sigmund Freud. It's also interesting to note that from a physics point of view, the broadest possible universal area covers light as the measurement and yardstick for speed, and dark matter and energy as the dark area that human beings have continued to struggle with most of their lives, and through our evolution from the beginning of time through the caveman times, through modern civilizations throughout the planet. To begin with, I want you to know that we'll be coming from focusing on you and your interpretation of what you get from these workshops. In other words, I want to disappear and only be a part of your consciousness talking to you, and everything that I say, see if you can relate to or deal with in your self-evolving boundaries from one to the limitless boundaries of the universal self in Self 3. Since the beginning of time, we have repeatedly been struggling with an attempt to move through our ambivalence that we run into as the bicameral mind evolves from our animal ancestors. As this mind developed, we have been stuck in judging good, bad, right, wrong, and underneath, feeling that we are always right, although consciously we can't say that. And yet, if you really look at the birth process, you'll see that the narcissism and the aspects of being omnipotent and the seed for God consciousness is present in every baby born on this planet. And as we move through our evolution, we have been stuck at the level where power seems to be the only way through this morass. Now, as we have played the game of power over the last millions of years, starting with the animal kingdom, and even before, if you wanted to look at it that way, you can see how power is an integral part of survival. And that one of the main companions of power that has to do with its sharing it with other people and with ourselves, and with it motivating us to continue our maturation, has been our ability to focus our energies and organize our energies in such a way that we can continue our growth toward maturation. And the symbols of maturation on the planet Earth, since we have become civilized, have been various people who are personified achievements. And those achievements are measured by the love, the kindness, the sharing, the creativeness of the so-called masters of reality. And by the masters of reality, I mean the people who have created ashrams and the people who have mastered their talents and actualized their abilities. And my quest in my research on spirituality and creativity have led me to the point where I can point across civilizations there seem to be certain limitless communication and the broadest possible boundaries. And also to demonstrate that in the research we find that the various gurus have very much the same type of creative, introspective, self-observations and self-determinations and self-choices. And that seems to be the actualization of their talents and abilities for the uplift of mankind. And further, we can see that out of all of those various gurus, there have been some that have been personified at various times in our epigenetic evolution by various personalities from whom we have created various religions. For example, if you look at the various masters along this path, starting with the Old Testament icons and the New Testament icons and followers of Jesus and his apostolate, and the story that goes with that, and how that relates to reality, but not to be taken literally, but to understand that we are connected by the oldest system of knowledge that we know of, which is the Tantra paradigm of the 7 chakras, although many masters think there are many more chakras. It's just that we cannot understand beyond the 7th one. And those chakras start with birth, start with the first chakra, which is aggression, and move gradually to the second chakra, which has to do with gender and sexuality. And then we move to the third chakra, which has to do with the solar plexus and power. And for millions of years, we have been stuck in the power chakra, because as we move to develop a bicameral brain and subsequently bicameral thinking and duality and ambivalence, we have found that this has led us to the kind of predicament that we've been stuck in at the power chakra for millions of years in our continued development. Now, if we look back over history and civilization, we will see that the coming out of the heavens to earth, we had various religions of the Greeks and the Romans that attempted to deal with this by a number of gods. And then gradually we evolved to the state where there was only one God, and that God was omnipotent. And really the maturation of what every baby experiences as a little God potential. Now, as we moved up the evolutionary scale, we have been able to see how various godlike personalities and godlike connections have been maintained by various stories and various religions in attempting to give us some understanding of how to translate pleasure and heavenly aspirations into modern everyday civilization. Now, our paradigm attempts to show how we can begin to solve the problem that comes with duality, the right and wrongness of things, where one group or one person is king of the hill, and that has grown out of the drama that we have found in our development of the family. And from that development of the family, the drama and the roles have fallen out so that you have a father figure, a mother figure, and siblings. And that's the beginning of self too. How do you maintain your omnipotence in the face of competition within the context of the family and your siblings, which later evolves into a given community or a given civilization? And we see how that's played out at the power level by war, by pestilence, by various forms of criminality and various forms of mental illness, in our attempt to make sense and stay connected to our universal oneness that we keep hearing about from the various gurus and from the various founders of religion. So as we move and attempt to move from the power level to the love level, we have had many representatives, the latest of which has been Jesus. Now, if you look back just a moment over various persons who have represented various stages of our evolution, we will see that Buddha represented our understanding of how you need to become detached, and you need to realize that everything is impermanent to get back into the flow of the universal evolution. We also need to know that it's important to move on to the next stage of evolution, which has to do and has to be represented from one culture by the Old Testament, and the group also from that section of the world having to do with the Muslim approach. And Moses